Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Okay. I would like to call to order the July 29, 2022 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Complete Streets Committee. I'd like to just quickly do a roll call of the members. We have Paulina Manzo, who called to say that she is on the road. She's going to try and join us by phone if she can, but if not, she's traveling out of town and would be excused. Carla Dougal. Carla, hello,
Here.
how are you?
Hi.
I'm here. Dart Strayer, I see sitting at the town board meeting. Hello, Dart, how are you?
Good.
Jim Levy. Jim Levy is here. Hello, Jim, how are you? Elise Corbin, I'm
Oh, she's here.
there she is. She's joined us. Hello, Elise. How are you today?
Hello. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late.
No,
I'm
you're
good. How
just
are you?
right on time. We're just doing the roll call. Andrew Millspaw. I see an Andrew Millspaw. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Hi, Bill. Good.
Good. Catherine Kuzman. Catherine, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
And Tess Healy. I don't see Tess just yet, but I'm hopeful she's going to join us. So anyway, we also have our town planner, Laura Robertson, with us. And I believe Jean Fody is helping with recording. And anyway, other than the highway staff, I think we're all here. So we're ready to go. And first piece of business is the minutes from our July 1, 2022 meeting, which really is our June 24 meeting that we moved to July 1. And I have a couple of amendments I'd like to offer myself, and other people may have a thought. One, that Complete Streets Committee members Catherine Kuzman and Dart Strayer were excused from our July 1, 22 meeting, and I'd like to show that in the minutes. Line 55 in the minutes refers to Jim Levy. He said he referenced the mini roundabout in Ballston Spa, but actually it hasn't been constructed. And so it's just Jim Levy on line 55 referenced a proposed mini roundabout in Ballston Spa. Line 76, Safe Streets for All Federal Grant. It says Miss Robertson stated the meeting, and I'd like to just add Miss Robertson stated the meeting with Town Supervisor Puccioni, Councilwoman Jessica Brennan, Police Chief Koken, went well. And so I'd like to add those. And then on line 100, this is referencing, I attended the school board meeting. So it should say Chairman Chapman stated that he reached out to the school board and the school, so I'm starting right here, and the school district construction manager, Robert C. Grandy, gave him his contact information for a brief meeting regarding making the schools more walkable. In other words, he gave me his card and said, why don't you give me a call? So as a citizen, I'm going to sit down. I haven't done it yet. I can't believe I haven't done that, but he gave me his card, and I'm going to try to have a short meeting with him just to explain our September 2020 memo to the school board.
Bill,
Yes.
that was line 114.
Line 100.
Oh, line 100.
Chairman Chapman stated that he reached out to, instead of the new school superintendent, should say the school board. Basically, I spoke a privilege of the floor at their June meeting. And so that would say the school, instead of he agreed to have another meeting, it should say the school district construction manager, comma, Robert C. Grande, gave him his contact information for a brief meeting regarding making the schools more walkable.
Okay. That all sounds very agreeable to me, but do you mind actually emailing me that last sentence? It's just
Sure.
too fast for me to write it all down.
Sure. Okay. So those are my additions. I mean, I do have line 101. He added that he would love others to join him at the meeting. I mean, I spoke at the school board as a citizen, not necessarily chair of the Complete Streets Committee. And so I just really wanted to go over our September 20 memo and explain to him what we were asking for. And he seemed very open to that. And I would just add that I spoke to another member of the school board who said they, in their regular meetings with the construction folks, they now have a line on their regular agenda to address input from Complete Streets Committee. So I see that as progress. Does anyone else have an addition or correction to the minutes for our July 1 meeting? Corrections?
Yeah, Bill, I'm just trying to find the line number. Give me 1 second.
Line 55?
Where did it go? Sorry.
That's okay. It's line 53 says, Mr. Levy explained that they can be traffic calming for many reasons and they help keep the traffic flowing in a safer way.
Yep. No,
The
it's,
reference-
I'm sorry. It was just on 61. It referenced the location of the mini roundabout being Lexington and Wyoming. It's actually Wyoming and Baker. Minor thing, but not proposing a mini roundabout in Lexington.
Okay, yeah, so that should say Wyoming and Baker.
Got it.
So there's a reference change on 61 and then the same thing on line 70.
Okay, so that should be Wyoming.
Just making sure we're referencing the right locations for the mini roundabout.
Okay. With those amendments, I propose, I move that we approve the July 1, 2022 minutes, and looking for a second. Jim Levy seconded those minutes. All in favor, just put your hand up, please. Any opposed? Okay, so got a yes from Andrew, so we're unanimously approving those minutes. Okay. Does anyone have an old business item they want to bring up at this juncture? We've got a fairly busy agenda and we have some open spots below for planning projects and committee member reports. So any old? Okay, moving on to new business. 1747 Union Street, the Rosetta Market. Laura, I think our pictures of ourselves may disappear. And so I do have an iron shirt on. I hope everybody will notice that before we go to the Rosetta Mart. And we won't be able to see each other, but we will see the Rosetta Mart. And so we're going to have Laura tell us a little bit about what's going on with that. So Laura, you're on for 1747 Union Street.
Okay. So I left my laptop at home. So sorry about that. Can you guys see the Rosetta Mart plan?
Yes.
Okay. So this is going before the planning board right now. It's the intersection of Van Antwerp and Union. I believe there's sidewalk on both sides where there's road here. And there's a bunch of curb cuts. So there's actually 4 of them. And then Dart and I were just talking to him before the meeting started. There's also these 3 planting beds. So I am not super familiar with that particular intersection in the town of Niskuna, but if there were things that we thought could help pedestrian or bicycle flow, we could submit comments to the planning board on this project. The project itself actually doesn't have a lot to do with changing like this. They're adding a little bit to the store over here. So, but if they add, obviously then we look at the site, and if there's things like, you know, like this is a pedestrian vehicle conflict area or something, like maybe we could ask for some review of that. Or it could just be as simple as plant some trees so that people have shade on when they're walking down the sidewalk, or, you know, something like that too.
Are they repaving the whole area there, or?
It's not proposed to be repaved, although they do potentially have to add some more parking spaces. So it's possible that they may close one of the entrances off in order to add more parking.
That, excuse me, that might actually be a good thing. Well, I just looked at the map. I'm somewhat familiar with it, but I had to go onto Google. That road on Van Antwerp, with the exception of where there's the planter bed right at the corner at the intersection, that whole thing is a wide open strip. There's no, it's not like you could drive over pretty much any of it. You could drive straight up to the pumps that are there, except for the fact there's a utility pole kind of there. So it's not what we'd like to see. While there is sidewalk there, the whole thing is wide open. We'd like to see more planter beds and be a more dedicated kind of in and out areas. But if they're going to close off something for parking, that would certainly be a positive step for pedestrians in terms of, vehicle conflict movements and things like that. I guess it just depends on which one they're going to do. And the other comment I just had, I don't know how much longer the pizza place across the road is going to be open. I used to get pizza there a lot. I haven't been there in a while, but they did allow parking for that pizza place on this site. They had it as overflow parking. I don't know if that's still the case or if that was unofficial or not. But I just thought I'd kind of throw that out there. I don't think very many people ever parked over there for that use.
We did note that parking was, there was some parking share with the Pizza Bueno place.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
the one.
Although we couldn't, I think
Is
Gene
that an
looked really
informal
hard.
agreement, or is that?
I mean, everybody remembers it. Tom remembers it. Kevin remembers it. But Gene and Clark went through the files pretty extensively and didn't find it actually written down anywhere. But everyone remembers it.
No, because I remember that too.
Yeah.
There was a sign on the pizza place that said you could park across the street.
I'm wondering
So
if that was an existing arrangement before.
The
They
Rosetta
did-
Mart went in.
Yeah.
There is still a sign on Pizza Bueno that says you can park over there. Yeah.
I don't think it's ever created a conflict. It's not like it's creating, parking issues for anyone else. I think it's nice to share the parking when there's need for overflow. But if there is a way to reduce the number of, ingress and egress spots, that would certainly be an improvement.
Is there a reason why the sidewalk doesn't align with the rest of the sidewalk there? It sort of jags in. Is it because the road needs to be wider there for accommodating like turning traffic, or?
I feel like no.
My guess by looking at Google Maps is it's the utility pole. But yeah, I think Laura's about to bring it up.
I'll try. Oh yeah, it does have a little jagged thing there. Right here.
Yeah. If you drop the little guy on Van Antwerp there, you'd be able to see a little better what's going on.
Sorry, little guy.
If they were repaving it, that would be an opportunity to straighten it out because they'd have to move the poles anyway, right?
Yeah, they're not repaving it though,
Okay.
and moving poles costs like hundreds of
Yeah.
thousands of dollars.
Okay.
Is that in the right way between the sidewalk and the road, or is that?
The pole?
Yeah. Who owns the street to the sidewalk? Is that the Schenectady or?
That's the county, Schenectady County. Yeah.
Because that's really, I mean, the grass area. You take out at least access in one of those areas, that would be the area that grass would be there.
Like if they close this entrance off, like
Yeah.
I wonder if this one, like if you're trying to maximize parking and you close this entrance out, I think you can get the most parking. Probably.
But I'm someone that uses that gas station. A lot of people pull in off of Van Antwerp
Do
to
they?
that, right? They use that access to get in from Van Antwerp Road. So I wouldn't want to see it curbed off. It's people on Van Antwerp come and they pull into the gas pumps using that space on Van Antwerp there.
But by around that utility pole, you could grass
Sorry.
grass at least part of it.
Move really fast when you click on this thing. Oh yeah, okay. So you do have, there are still.
But then you'd have to kind of come in left and loop all the way around in your car, as opposed to being able to come in before the utility poles. And I mean, I don't know. Do they also have parking in the back behind there if they had to do additional parking, or
They have 2 parking spaces.
what about along the embankment there? Could they put more parking spaces there?
Like along
That's
here.
that's where
Yeah.
I've parked when I've gone to the pizza place. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I think you
official or
can
not, but
fit.
that's where I would, the 1 or 2 times I had to do it, I parked where Laura's arrow is on the screen there. Yeah,
I mean,
right.
yeah, you could even put angle parking there so that you could get maybe 6 or 7 spaces there with angle parking, and you'd have room for cars to back out.
Yeah, that's wide open. It looks like maybe they have gas delivers in that area.
Oh, that might be the reason why that's open, right? Because they gotta get the trucks in there.
Yeah, because it looks like they have some manholes and stuff over here, but you
I
might
think you're
still
right.
be able to figure
Yeah, it's right
some of
there.
that out.
Yeah.
You definitely, I think, could get more parking spots along here, even if you just bumped the curb out a little bit right here. You have, this is probably where they actually
Yeah.
put the gas, but that's pretty far. I think that's this. Well, it's
Yeah,
hard
but
to say
that's the
there.
reason why you'd have to leave that open.
Yeah,
They
you
gotta
have
get
to
the
leave that
trucks
one
in.
part open. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I mean, anything we can do to, to narrow up that wide open, space for, that doesn't have any, that essentially allows cars to come in and out anywhere would be nice. Done in conjunction with parking certainly makes sense, but
okay, so I can put as a recommendation that the complete streets is supportive of an entrance being closed off or narrowed up to make the area safer for pedestrians, and then
Street trees.
replant buffer with street trees for shade.
I think part of the problem on Van Antwerp, if you have to leave the 2 entrances, they're not defined. And I think that's sort of a safety concern.
right, exactly.
I mean, because
Yeah,
somebody could pull in anywhere along or pull out anywhere along there. So if you defined it better, I mean, if you had to keep the spaces,
like maybe you define, like you put a curb or something like right on either side of the
yeah,
something.
just
Yeah,
make it really
let's-
defined.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm actually surprised there isn't one there since they have the 2 other ones. I'm surprised they didn't put something around the existing utility pole there. Yeah, that's the right terminology, Dart. It's defining the ingress and egress better through curbing and doing so in such a way that I think they can increase or formalize, their on-site parking. I think it can all be done together.
Yeah, so you don't have to be, I mean, you always got to be watching for cars, but at least you have some safety. It's not wide open the whole time you're walking along that.
Well, I think the problem is that, you might see a car coming in one of the entrances and somebody all of a sudden swerves in the other way and you just, you're not expecting it. Nor is the driver. Does that go through that alleyway all the way through the back?
yeah, it does. You can get access to the bank
Oh, you can.
Okay.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which some people, once they've been to Bank of America, they come through the back of the gas station and make a right on Van Antwerp. So you avoid having to try to get on Van Antwerp and make a right. But
There's even more issues.
Well, I think it's good preliminary comments. Narrow up the entrances, replant the buffer with street trees for shade, and define the curb entrances around the utility pole on Van Antwerp.
I mean, arguably, you could close the connection to the bank and put some angled parking in that space right there and get 6 or 7 spots.
So you could, although the planning board, I think, likes to have connected parking lots along the big streets.
Okay.
It is already shown as angled parking for Bank of America.
It is. I see that.
So you can only get through if there's no one parked there, I guess.
That's funny. Is that a grade job? I wonder. Okay. Did anybody have any more comments on that one? We can go on to the next one.
Okay. Let's move on to Empire Drive, 2-lot subdivision.
So this one, I kind of racked my brain for if there's a complete streets element to it. I think there is, but I wanted you guys.
Where is Empire Drive? I should know, but
Empire Drive is off of Lyshakill. It's the new development that went in like 8 years ago, maybe. Here's Lyshakill. Here's Empire Drive.
oh, okay.
And this subdivision, it's kind of where that little pin that says boat and RV storage is. It's coming off this little corner. But it's really not connected to anything.
Does it connect through like the Lori Drive? Does Empire Drive connect up to Lori Drive at some point? Where is Lori Drive connected to like Birchwood School through like a little informal path, or Douglas Court? One of them.
Yeah, there
Don't
is
they
a
have like
stub.
I haven't walked around there, but don't they have some kind of?
There is a stub that comes off of Douglas Court.
Yeah, it's right there.
That if we wanted to connect to Birchwood, which we do, you'd follow the stub in off of Douglas Court, and then the town would do a little bit more. We have to follow Lori Drive down here over to the right. Yeah.
Right
So up
there.
here you see Douglas Court in the far right-hand corner, and you see a stub coming out, and then you see Birchwood Elementary. So one of our school things is to finish that stub over to the school property line, which would be a town project. And then the school, which is part of our recommendation to the district, would be along this tree line, you'd bring the pathway down there up to the school property. So the walking school bus that would be Gala, Empire Drive, Douglas Court, Lori Drive, maybe even some houses on the other side of Lyshakill would be able to walk across, and they'd be able to walk to Birchwood School essentially without having to go on busy roads. And I believe there is a bike path. Is it along Gala Place that there's or maybe it's Empire Drive, one or the other, I believe, has got a hike and bike path on it.
It's Gala.
Yeah, so Gala, so folks could cross Lyshakill and they'd walk on a bike path on Gala, they'd loop around on Lori, and then they'd come right down to Douglas Court and they make a right turn and they could get access to Birchwood Elementary on a walk path. And so the town would have to maybe plow some snow off the Douglas Court stub, and the school district would have to plow a little bit of snow on a asphalt path that would be in the back. But again, it's just another way for parents with the walking school bus. I mean, maybe you wouldn't send your child by themselves on this, but again, if you had a parent that was doing the walking school bus and they scoop up 10 or 15 kids on the walk to school in the morning and the same at the end, that would be an access way to get there. And it's something we propose to the school district.
Laura, could you go back to where that stub is on the Google Maps?
Yeah, I just that would be such a good connection to make. Just saying. Okay, so but this is the stub that we're looking at
Can you
here.
Scroll up a little bit. I just want to see what's on the other side of that. So the stub was put there for a reason. Was there a conductivity?
So I thought that because I was like, maybe the intent was to connect to the town of Colony down here at one point, but actually, the town of Colony had already built this Rising Road before Empire Drive was built, and they put all the homes along there, so there wouldn't have been a way to connect to the town of
What about
Colony.
the boat and storage was
So that's actually accessed off of Lyshakill Road.
okay.
So the planning board thinks that the stub was put there because they couldn't landlock property when they were doing the subdivision.
Oh, okay.
And they think that this parcel here was landlocked if they didn't do the stub. You can just go out a little bit. And maybe there was a potential at one point. They thought that you could potentially fit like more than 2 houses, but it gets kind of hard. Like he looked at putting a cul-de-sac in there.
But what's that other road?
These are the town of Colony roads.
Is that the driveway from the boat?
This is the driveway from the boat place.
Mm-hmm. could you,
which is like, it's just forest.
hmm.
And I guess people like maybe pay to store their boats and RVs here, but it's not like
Yeah.
a road. It's like
I
a
guess the
driveway.
question I'm asking is, was there an idea that boat place wouldn't be there forever?
And
in
maybe
case
they
you'd
were
have
looping the
connectivity-
road.
Yeah, looping the road, because it would provide an access that's not on Route 7 out of the community. Because as it stands
Yeah.
now, you don't really have any other place to go except Route 7.
There is an easement on the left side there,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
kind of running into this triangle, and it looks like the same owner owns the property being subdivided as well as the one that, on the left there, it's shown by the easement. So it is all one owner currently. I don't know if it was back then.
So like, this is what I was going to ask you guys on the next one. Like maybe it would make sense to ask for like a pedestrian access easement along the boundary of the property line in case you were ever going to make like a bike path connection or something.
well, I'm just thinking
Yes.
in the future whether there would be a road there. I mean,
On this other one,
if you develop the other property there, it looks like there's a fair amount of land, right? Would you put a row of houses along there and then connect the stub out? Because the problem with this development is this one goes out on Logic Hill.
that one, yes,
This
they
development
both,
goes out
yes,
to Logic
they
Hill,
both do.
but we don't have the connect. I'm sorry, I misspoke before. I was thinking of Douglas and Lori Lane, but this one doesn't connect through there because that connection is blocked. So you can only get out to the Logic Hill. So, right, there's two stubs that go out to the Logic Hill from this development.
Yes.
So that would provide a third access point. I don't know. Again, I'm just speculating.
It's not a bad speculation of that. I mean, the idea of some type of right of way put in there, Laura, that might be used for a road if that got developed in the future, but at least could provide for pedestrian connection.
Yeah.
If houses in there, because if you were to if that were to ever be developed, there is a bit of land back in there. The fact that those houses right there couldn't connect through to Empire and then make their way down to Birchwood, where any kids would probably end up going to school, is kind of crazy because it's pretty short. It's a reasonable walk, I'd say.
Yeah. So if you made provision that if any of this ever got developed, at least they could cross through and connect into the stub, and then they would make their way right to where Bill was just talking, which would be
Yeah.
important.
It might make them have to move the house site on lot 1 because it might be a
little.
bit constrained, but I think it's worth a discussion. At least there's some kind of easement through there. Potentially, at least worth the discussion asking if there could be an easement through there.
Yeah.
With future possibilities.
Are they definitely want to build two houses there? Is that?
Yeah, he wants to build 2 houses, but like you could these are just proposed housing sites. Like if you did an easement, like along the setback where they couldn't build anyway or something like that, and then just, tried to connect it over to here.
So how is this not like we're putting in 2 flag lots?
Well, they're not shaped like a flag.
Well, they are sort of. You're sharing a driveway if neither one was, because they're behind the existing houses, right? I mean, if you
No, they are. These are all existing
I
houses
would
in
consider
here.
that a flag lot.
But you have a right. I mean, you could put a single home on that.
If you rotated it around, you could put a. My point is that there's 2 things I see here. One is the access to eventual access, and the other one is you sort of putting in a flag lot, 2 flag lots there,
Okay, well that's
which is not. I mean, that's not the complete streets.
Yeah, that
issue,
can be
but
a
that's a leverage point because it's not the comprehensive plan
Yeah.
explicitly says that those should be discouraged.
So, yeah, so we can ask to provide for easement either for a future road, but at least for pedestrians. Probably a future road would be too big, but at least for pedestrians.
I'd ask for a road and then see where it went.
For future road or. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. How does the rest of the committee feel about that? I mean, we want to keep conductivity.
The boat and RV storage is in Niskayuna?
No.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, just barely.
Okay. So any houses that are on that road.
And the line is actually, you can see the line on the aerial.
Oh, right there.
This is
Oh,
the
okay.
line between
Huh.
the town of Colony and the town of Niskayuna. That's super funny.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah, you're connecting the, what is that? Bobby Court too.
Yeah, Bobby Court's in Niskayuna.
Yeah.
Could I ask, if you back up just a little bit where you had Walnut on there,
Oh, hold on.
would Riesling Road, if there were a sidewalk, in other words, if Colony came down to Walnut East here, if you had a walk path that went from the Riesling Road over to Walnut Lane, so students that might attend Birchwood Elementary would be able to come over to Walnut Lane and go on hopefully a sidewalk that would take them right down to Birchwood Elementary. I mean, they wouldn't have to go over to Empire Drive, down Laurie, loop around and come in the back way. They'd be able to just go right across from this turnaround and Riesling Drive over to Walnut Lane West, and then walk down that street, walk down maybe a sidewalk on Birchwood Lane that would take them to the school. So I guess I'm just wondering, is there any connection between the circle there at the end of Riesling Road and Walnut Lane West
I don't know. That's not in the town of Niskayuna. And
yeah, it's in the town of Colony, but
I
guess
don't know
I'm just-
how that development worked or if there's a path there or not. I'm not sure. Oops. That might be.
But it is technically out of our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's worth a suggestion, I guess. So
Well,
it could
certainly
be.
certainly keeping in mind as we start talking more and more about Birchwood, is if we get closer to things, I think, sure. But
Yeah.
it is something we'd have to talk to the town.
I mean, it's just a matter of asking the town planner in Colony, look, what's going on here? And, we're trying to promote walkability to Birchwood.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
But-
it depends on whether those houses back up, right? I mean, is that a
Yeah, it's
public
really
strip there?
it's
or-
really hard to say, but we have a million places that we could tell people to make complete streets. But I want to keep our focus kind of lasered in
Yeah.
on things that we can do. So I feel like, understanding, that this looks like a pretty big chunk of land that hasn't been subdivided. And if it has the potential to fall, you would want to make sure that these people would have access to these nice connections, hopefully over to Birchwood eventually.
Actually,
So.
you see the stub further down the street near Elijah Kill, go up down right there. I
Oh.
bet you those two stubs were designed.
No, I don't
for
think
the-
that's a stub. I think that's that's just that's a stormwater detention.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
it looked like a stub.
Yeah, I know, but I think there's only the one, and the planning board thinks it's because you couldn't landlock that property. You could, this is the property that this like chunk of like trapezoid right here is the property that he wants to put two homes on.
Mhm.
I support a path at the very least, a hike and bike path that would go from the boat RV storage over to Empire Drive.
That's a good idea.
Okay, see, I couldn't identify any complete streets elements, and you guys definitely thought of a really good one. So I'm glad that I brought that to you guys. Any more questions? Some comments on that one?
No, I'm good.
And then the last. Oh, go ahead. I heard somebody.
Anyone else on
Let me see, Laura.
this one? If not, let's move on to 2239 Van Antwerp Road.
Okay, yeah, so that's the last one. And this one, I was thinking, I drive this all the time. And almost every time I drive this section of Van Antwerp Road, I'm visually trying to figure out how to add a sidewalk. And while if you put a sidewalk on this side of the road, it would be complicated when you hit the GE research circle. This is definitely the side of the road where it'd be easier to put the sidewalk, because like if you're going down Van Antwerp Road, this is the side that
Those are where the flowers are?
yeah, so let me just
It doesn't have all the telephone poles and
Yeah, exactly.
mailboxes and yeah.
exactly,
This
Carla.
is between not in the circle, right?
It's close to the circle. And
Is that wooded area?
It's the wooded area, yeah, right next to the house that has all the flowers.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so like it would be easy to put the sidewalk on this side because this is sort of the back of that Comanche Trail.
Yep.
And it wouldn't affect
Actually,
anybody to put a sidewalk
having
there.
having looked at that, I mean, a little bit. I mean, there are you would take kind of a segment of the front yards of the people on the east side of Van Antwerp. As I went out to speak to the Friedmans who live at the end of Van Antwerp Road right before the circle, and they actually would like to see a crosswalk. There's another road that I guess goes to GE that's east of the circle a little ways that they'd like to see the crosswalk there, but they would like to be able to walk and bike to the high school, and are very supportive of a hike and bike path. And I'm just saying on the west side of Van Antwerp might work better because there's some wooded area as you get close down to Knott Street East, and
Yeah, that's all
it
this.
just seems to me you would not impact homeowners quite as much if you did the west side. And we do need a path there, I think, that people can get to the high school that way. And it's also the case, as I look at that I was wondering if there were another way to get from Crimson Court, maybe over to Jade Lane or whatever. It'd be another way to get to the high school if you could go from Crimson Court to Jade Lane. Or maybe there is a pocket park, off of Jade Lane. But at the very least, I mean, the neighbors, they actually see quite a few people that bike and walk to GE that use Van Antwerp Road. So it's not just students, it's employees that, go to GE. And so they've got to navigate getting through the traffic circle and getting up there. And a crosswalk would be good. But just, for students going to the high school and back, or employees going to GE, we need a side path on Van Antwerp Road down to Knott Street East.
Yeah.
I've seen people bike there, and in fact, I've seen
my
people
gosh, there's
bike
so
there
many
in the
people
middle
there.
of winter
Yes, they do.
for a snowstorm.
No, I know. Like people
Right.
walk their dogs, they
Yeah.
push their strollers, and there is no shoulder.
No.
None. When people are walking their dogs and pushing their strollers, and the high school is running its run team on that road, they're in the road.
So are we proposing that when they develop that property, they set aside?
So that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking, because we've done that before, is
Yeah.
we could do a multi-use path easement along the fronts of both of the properties.
Yeah.
So it would be one less that we'd have to get if we were ever going for a sidewalk on that road.
Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
I also agree. I do think the visibility is really bad on Van Antwerp because the trees are so thick, and you often can't see over to Knott Street when there are cars coming. They do have a stop sign, but it's still hard to see if they might blow through it. So
It's a
I think with the multi-use path, I hope there could even be a little bit of like trimming around that intersection because it's really hard to see around it.
It is. It's an old road with a small right of way, and it has a lot of big trees. The only disadvantage, I think, to putting the sidewalk on this side, you only have really 5 homes, right, to put the multi-use path in front of, but you're on the wrong side of the research circle when you hit it. That's the only disadvantage to putting it on that. But that side is clearly the easiest way to put the sidewalk on.
Yeah, no, and you can
Good.
always do something.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, just in case, I think because we know that there needs to be some kind of sidewalk or path.
I mean, at the very least, if you got it to, was it Ava?
Alva, yeah,
Ava
would be better than.
would be better than nothing.
Yeah, it's true. Which would be very easy to do, really, because if you get the easement here, then you're just crossing one driveway, and then the rest of this is county right of way that doesn't impact any single home, all the way down to Knott Street.
Right.
Yeah.
And up at the north end, Laura, if you put a crosswalk over Van Antwerp before you got to the circle and then did something around the other side, is the easier connection into GE. That could be done. I mean, VA's got a decent amount of traffic, but it's nothing like, River Road with speeds and other stuff. So if you crossed before you reached the circle and kind of worked your way around the right side of the research circle there.
And
Yeah,
then
there's that old road. The old road is right up from the behind Imagination Fields up towards Van Antwerp? No,
Yeah, right here.
no.
Oh,
the
not
other
that
way.
one.
Go that.
Oh,
there's
this
a
way.
Row of telephone poles. You can almost see them. Go on Van Antwerp before it winds out to go into the circle, right where the trees
Oh,
end.
like right here.
Yeah, there's like a.
Oh,
I
you
often
can
wondered
see
about
it.
that. I believe that was the original road.
Oh.
Because there's telephone lines that go through there, so there might be,
But even that would be nice because you could connect people to walking to those
That's what I'm
baseball
saying,
fields.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and that's about where I would see it, put a crosswalk, and then if you come down River Road and work your way through kind of the median where it says river, you get back over to the trail on the other side and it's already done.
Yeah, I guess the point I was making is there's a lot of space. There's a lot of options there because you got space.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, yeah. All right. So that one is a pretty easy ask for a pedestrian easement along the front. Well, I'm going to say multi-use path easement actually.
Yeah, make sure we have enough room.
Laura, so I've dealt with this, and I'm sure you have as well for a long time, and I'm sure Kathy's seen it as well. Just because it's on the map doesn't mean the homeowners know about it. So when we go in there in 5 or 8 years to say something, they're going to come back and be like, "Well, I had no idea. You can't do that. I don't want it there." Right?
Yeah, sometimes that happens.
A
But
big note on the plans. I mean, I even pitched to one community that they put a sign up, essentially a semi-permanent sign, just a little one saying future, potential future path or something. So we start doing more and more of this. I'm just afraid we're going to get a lot of these connections and then get to the point of being able to do this, and everyone's going to come back and say, "Nope, we're not going to do it," even though it's on my plan because I didn't know. And then it becomes a political issue. There's no easy answer, but I think we need to start thinking about that. If we do start getting more and more of these options, how we can try and prevent that or minimize that from happening.
so we
Well,
can,
there's also another advantage of putting small signs. The public sees it and it becomes, there's a push to do it.
Well, exactly. They put the note. Yep.
I think that's
So-
a great idea.
Just putting that out there. I don't want to create a problem in the future where we're solving a problem now just to run into it in the future.
although like I can tell you guys that even though the homeowners at Flower Hill had an easement for the multi-use path,
Yeah.
they were not in favor. And the town did say this was something that we had been looking to do for a lot of time. Sorry, you're not in favor, but we are going to do it.
I guess the question is, once it got put in though, were people on Flower Hill opposed to it?
No, they love it. Well, one person still
Well,
doesn't like
yeah.
it, but yes.
Yeah, so that's generally people don't like change.
Yeah. Yes. This is true.
The same was true on Knott Street East, Windsor Drive, that when I was on the board, the people didn't want the side path over there, even though it was on the plan when they bought their homes. But once it was in, they pretty much all seemed to like it a lot. So
Yeah, they're the ones that use it.
sometimes the planners like Dart are right, and it's good for the community. So
Well, it's really hard to tell that to somebody when they're like screaming at you.
Yeah.
You can be like, trust me, it will be okay.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But that's the only reason I bring it up. We've talked in the past with certain communities about putting it in a deed. I don't know if we can do that. So it's an extra piece of paper. So it's included with your paperwork when you sign it. So when they actually sign the paper, say, "Well, you may not have read it, but it was in the paperwork you signed when you got the house," stuff like that. Just again, throwing it out there. It's a tough one, but yeah, we'll hope that the thing we put in there will get implemented when the time comes.
I like it.
Well, it seems to me, wouldn't the right of way go in the deed anyway or not?
It does, but it gets buried.
will. But although they don't always have to create new deeds from a subdivision, it sort of depends on what's going on.
Okay.
It's mainly just a property homeowner, education issue. Be aware of
Yeah,
it so they can't come back later and say, "I didn't know." But
It's Van Antwerp. You said it's a county road,
Yeah.
so it's a smaller right of way like Rosendale, or is it a
Yeah,
different?
it's like Rosendale. Rosendale and Van Antwerp are these super old roads. They're some of the first roads that we ever had in the town of Niskayuna. And the right of way is funny. It's not like your standard 60 feet, that was platted. These things, this road was built when it was just a horse road, and it was farms. So it's quite a different situation when you're working on these right of ways. But that area of Van Antwerp, because there's so much where it's not homes and the land could easily fit a side path there, seems like it would be. I imagine it almost every time I drive down Van Antwerp. I really think you could do it, but obviously it costs a lot of money.
okay, we're going to propose adding that to the planning for those two lots. If we're ready, can we move on to bike path and roundabout on Baker in Wyoming? Discussion items.
Yep. Bill, I'm sorry. Jim, do you want to take that one? I saw that you did a really detailed cost estimate for the project. I did look and it appears like the demonstration funding from CDTC is still open. So it does seem like if we have a reasonable cost estimate that we could submit that fairly soon.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, so, just following up on what we discussed at the last meeting, I think the committee came to general consensus that we think we can do both demo projects, both Lexington Parkway bike lanes, probably without the festival component that we've done before, because that takes a lot of work and it's a pretty heavy lift. But maybe some type of less intense, educational outreach effort. And then also do a mini roundabout somewhere. And I think the location that had been discussed potentially was Wyoming and Baker, which I think will, assuming that we get positive feedback from the residents, because I think we've discussed for any demo project, we want to go out and talk to the residents in advance, making sure they're okay with it. That might help start the discussion moving for Wyoming residents who aren't happy with that intersection with the yield sign that's there now. So, assuming it went there or wherever it were to go, I put together some quick cost estimates using temporary marking paint, and really heavy duty duct tape, which is what the city of Albany used years ago. They recommended that to CDTC. I used it up in Boston Spa for a demo project on Hyde Boulevard last year. It held up pretty well. It did pull up at times where heavy trucks ran over it. I don't think we get a lot of that on Lexington, so I'd hope it'd be all right. And I could keep an eye on it, living right there, and go out and do any patches as needed. But the total cost for the duct tape, I think 11 rolls of duct tape, 8 cans of paint, bollards we won't have to pay for because we already have those, but we should go double check they're still in the shed. Shero templates that we can double as a bike template we don't need. The town has one. I also have one, so we can use those for painting the bike symbols and the Shero symbols. And then maybe a couple signs, that we put up like we did last time, informational signage with a QR code. And yeah, I think 4 signs total, maybe a couple for the mini roundabouts. I think we're probably looking at about $153, $475, probably about $500 total cost for the paint, signs, and tape to put this in.
But does that include the mini roundabout too?
Yeah, it would.
Oh, it does. Okay. Well,
We'd use the bollards instead of planning a planner.
Oh, okay. I got it. That would work really good, wouldn't it?
The mini roundabout is just generally some paint, probably some tools we have on our own, some tape and other things to make a decent circle. And then again, we have the bollards from last time that we purchased. So if we were to use any bollards, we just reuse those. I don't think we look to buy any more.
Yeah, they are good. I like those bollards.
So I just want to go up to the shed and make sure they're still there.
I haven't checked on them in a while.
I haven't been up there in a long time. So assuming they're there, I think the cost is pretty minimal.
Yeah, I'm not sure we need, if it's like $500, I could ask the supervisor, but I could probably do 250 from planning miscellaneous and see if she could do 200. I mean, that seems like we could cover it.
Yeah. And then the other issue is volunteer time to put it in. I think the mini roundabout, you're probably talking, an hour or two for 2 or 3 people. The bike lanes is probably 2 to 3 hours for 3 or 4 people. Just to lay everything down, because we're looking at 2 to 3 blocks, 2 blocks, I think, on either side of the road. So it just takes a little time.
Well, the biggest lift is probably just going out and talking to the residents, because that seems very doable to me, like what you just described.
Yes. Yeah, so that was what I was going to say. I did leave off the public engagement part of it, which we know we have to do, knocking on doors and mailings and things like that. That is another moderate to significant element in terms of time. Sorry, Bill, were you going to say something?
Well, one question I had for Jim was, if you live on Wyoming Avenue and you're coming down the street and there's a yield sign, but the folks on Wyoming have asked that the yield be converted to a stop sign, and we've asked police and public safety if that could happen, and it hasn't yet. But question for Jim is, would a planner, would a mini roundabout, would the folks on Wyoming say, oh, the yield sign comes down, or without a yield, you just have a planter, assuming it was made a permanent fixture. Is that just a speedway for folks coming down Wyoming to jump over onto Baker? Will it really slow traffic? And is there any danger of folks coming southbound on Baker, intersecting maybe with cars that are coming down Wyoming? So I guess would folks on Wyoming say, gee, now there's no yield sign, all we have is a planter. Is that really a traffic calming device? And they may say, people ignore the yield sign now, that a planter might be better than what we have. We're willing to give it a try. I guess I'm just being a little bit devil's advocate to say, what's the research evidence on these planners, these mini roundabouts, as being a traffic calming device? And
So we can pull data, Bill, and certainly we need to do that and put together a flyer. I don't disagree with you that we might hear every one of those comments you made. We've heard them before. And, what this really comes down to is it's a test, right? And if we get everyone to agree, they already know there's an issue, there's a concern, it's been there for over 20 years, long before this committee was formed. This is a test to see if it works. We all know, in theory, what a stop sign should do if one were to be put in. But this is a location where we think something like this could work. And I don't know, I put together a really quick, really rough sketch of what it might look like if everyone wants to see it. If you want me to put up on the screen really quick.
sure.
I think it could work. But again, it's a test. That's what all of these demo projects are, right? They're all tests. So let's see if it'll pop up here. Are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
I mean, this is generally what I'm thinking we would have. We put up 2 more yield signs. We have one existing now here. So you'd put up the other yield signs as you enter into it. You'd need a little bit of paint on the ground to both show the arrows for directions, and then also to persuade cars to kind of come in and out of the roundabout the way they're supposed to. And then in the middle, I think we just put down a painted circle and use our temporary bollards we already own, potentially with some signage that would go in the middle if we were to do it permanently. I don't know if we'll be able to pull off this sign or not. So if not,
I bet the highway
No,
department's
but
got a
that's-
sign that we could put it up. We just put it in the middle.
yeah, well, this one's a little different because it's got some funny arrows and things on it. But this is in theory what we're looking at, whether it's here or at another intersection. And it's just paint. It would be for a week. And we'd ask the residents, we've got the numbers because we had the counter out, right, last year, I think. So we've got numbers and count numbers and speeds, I think. Right, Laura? Did that one count both of those? Do we know? Can't remember.
I have to look. I mean, the police definitely has had counters out on Wyoming for sure.
Have they
Yeah,
had counters on?
there was
on
a speed
Baker?
counter. There was a speed
Yeah,
counter.
there's been a speed guy on there a lot. We definitely know the numbers.
So again, Bill, it's a temporary thing, right? And if the neighbors
I like
come back
this.
and say they're willing to say, we'll give it a try. It's only a week or 2 or whatever. Great. And if they absolutely hate it, then we've got another data point, right? Then maybe that's not the right thing for that location. We get tried somewhere else. They have the right locations, and sometimes they don't. But so this would be roughly what it would look like if we did it there. It'd be generally the same anywhere else we did it. If we did a 4-way intersection, we'd just have another leg coming off here. And then eventually, if you get to it being permanent, this is what they have in Ithaca. It's just a mountable curb with some vegetation in the middle and the sign. So it'd kind of be the same thing, but in theory, hopefully look a little nicer.
So you have 3 directions yielding instead of 1, which is helpful. And I think it's great. Yeah.
Every direction would deflect a little bit. It would slow you down. It's something a lot of people aren't used to. So hopefully that would, catch their attention. I think that's a lot of what needs to go on at this intersection is people just go whipping through it. They don't pay attention. This will hopefully grab their attention.
And so people turning left from Wyoming onto Baker would have to go around the mini turnaround to proceed northbound on Baker.
And that's what this sign shows. I'll blow it up. That's what the sign shows is how you go around to get to each corner.
Okay.
That's it in theory. Quick sketch.
Well, One, I like it for the reason that the town board has asked us to take a look at it. And so if we come up with an intersection where we know it's a good one to give it a try, and they've asked for our input, I think it's good for this committee to get back to the board saying, well, you have some residents interested in the mini roundabouts, if they would work. Here's one we want to try for 2 weeks. We've got some speed data on Wyoming and maybe some even on Baker. We're going to put it in. It looks like when the town board asks us, we're responsive to a request. And I also think it's a little bit of the town board being willing to try something that's a traffic calming device, which means, okay, they tried this, the residents liked it. It may open the door to a chicane or a traffic platform or some more street trees or some bushes or a mini roundabout on Fieldstone Drive and Lois Lane, where the police have already said there's a speed issue there. It could be, it looks to me like there's room to do this there as well, that you would make residents on Fieldstone Drive maybe happy if it looks like the town is listening to us in terms of speed on the road, and they're putting something in that might help be a traffic calming device. So I think that's a good reason. And we're willing to work with the board, and maybe we earn some chits so that when we ask them about something, they'll be willing to think about it at the very least. So I think it's a good proposal. Anyone else? Thank you for joining us, Tess. And you have any thoughts on the roundabout, or Catherine, or Elise, or anyone else?
I always support roundabouts. I think they're like the safer alternative. So I know there's a lot of pushback from the community in most instances, but once they get used to it, they're usually pretty happy with it. So I guess it's just a matter of reaching out to the neighborhood there and fielding that out and getting a feel for it to find out if they would be willing to go for it. I think it's a great idea. I like the way you laid it out. It's very good.
They'll probably be a lot less opposed to it if we do tell them about it first and educate them a little bit about what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to reduce car accidents than if we just plunk it down in the middle of nowhere and they're like,
oh yes, I think we'd have that design that Jim has, and we'd walk Wyoming and Baker and say to residents, look, this is some speed data we have on these roads. We'd like to give this a try. Complete Streets in the town are listening to your concerns. There's scientific evidence or other communities have evidence that this is a traffic calming device that works. And we'd like to try one for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is, and see how it works. And
it's temporary, it's using temporary materials. There's really shouldn't be any issues not putting anything big and heavy in the road. And, we have always reached out in the past to neighbors when we've done this or anything else, but I think we've learned you can never reach out enough. So we just want to make sure we do a really good push to really try and get to everyone to the extent we can.
So again, that design, I think we probably would want to share with the chief of police and with highway committee and, maybe the fire department or whatever, so that they see that and then they're okay doing this. So before we even talk to the neighbors, the police chief's willing to give it a try. The fire department's willing to give it a try. The highway superintendent's willing to give it a try. And then we talk to the neighbors and then we do it. So that would be my thought.
Yeah, Jim, can you send me that markup that you screen shared? And I could start, because I think the next round of committee meetings is next week. And so I could email it to, police and highway and ask for it to be on their committees, and I'll put it on my committee.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Absolutely.
Because I agree with Bill. If we can get the okay from the committees and, the budget is doable, then I think as long as we've got the town behind us, then we should just start with outreach. But let's make sure we get the town behind us.
And Jim, or does anybody know how much of that orange sign that you showed us, how much would that be? And could we get one of those that we would include in the, would we need 3 of those? One for Wyoming and one for either side of Baker? And,
yeah, technically, Bill, we need 3. The only issue with putting a sign up is, and we know based on past discussions, is that we don't seem to like things in the road that people might hit that could damage something. those are pretty big metal signs. The knockdown bollards that we bought before are pretty minimal. If someone hits them, it's not going to do much damage.
Okay.
I'm not sure we're going to get those signs put in the middle. I'd like that, but I think my guess is we're probably just going to go with a circle and some bollards and arrows on the road.
Okay.
But I'll leave it in there as an option. But yeah, you'd need one on each approach.
Yeah, well, at least we could ask the plant or police committee and highway what their thought is on a sign, and if they say it's not a good idea or whatever, then we can skip. But if they like the idea of a sign, which would make it a little bit closer to what the real planter would have on it,
it would be helpful to have the signs, I think, for sure. But so
Okay,
we'll discuss that. But if we can't, it still would work with the directional signage on the road.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion on this? I think this is good. It's a good demo project idea, and it's very possible that the people on Baker in Wyoming would be happy that we're still listening to them, that we want to try something that might work. So, okay, any other comments on this before we leave this one? Okay, now, the demo project on Lexington, I still like to do that with the bike lane. So it'd be the same model there, that we'd have the design that Jim Levy has prepared. We need to walk the 2 blocks between Clifton Park and Regent Street on Lexington, share that design with neighbors and ask them about doing the bike lanes. And I mean, it's not hard for us. I've done our Complete Streets table on the town green at the Arbor Day event. We could certainly, even if I were asked to do it at the food markets on Saturday morning, but even if we had a Saturday just to explain to residents what's going on, even if we just set up the table, we did handouts, we did some flyers in the neighborhood, or the people just saying, hey, if you, as a matter of fact, I think for a few hours, 6 hours, we could close off the road with road closed signs and just let kids and people bike it. I mean, we do that all the time with block parties. If we just pick the Saturday as the kickoff to the bike lanes, we have an information table. We close the road for a few hours. We invite the neighbors to come and ride up and down on the bike lanes and ask us questions. And we've got some Complete Streets handouts. We get some information, and it's good PR. And, we could do that for 4 or 5 hours, to kick off the bike lanes. And then the painted lanes would stay there for, I don't know, a couple of weeks or whatever. And, I mean, at the end of that 3 weeks, we could, we could walk the neighborhood again and just get any input from the neighbors on what they felt like, what they felt it was, and we could do it. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to get our big Complete Streets map and some handouts and set the table up and, do pastrami sandwiches, cold beer, ice cream, and pizza to go along with. No, some paper handouts, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's great, Bill. Just last time, we got the bike club involved. We had a CDTA bus there, so we could show people how to put a bike on the bus. Those kinds of things just require time and effort. I just think it might be easier if we just minimize it, like you said. I think that's great. We can certainly close it down.
I mean, I wouldn't get all those things. I just try to do, a table, and we'll be there, and we'll answer some questions of the neighbors, and so.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be great.
Okay, so we'll have to find a date for that, and we'll have to do some striping, but I think we can make that work too. So, any other further questions on the Lexington bike path demo project? If not, I'd like to move on to Safe Streets for All, federal Safe Streets and Roads for All, the SS4 possible grant application. And I'll just kick this off. I sent out to everybody some input from CDTC and some proposed roads. And Jennifer Soponis at Capital District Transportation Committee said that they have basically a road safety plan for the Capital District, which their professional opinion is that this meets the qualifications established by the federal government for an SS4A. And if that's the case, then we would not have to ask for grant money to prepare a comprehensive safety action plan from which implementation steps would be derived from that, which we would do, that we could move right to implementation. And I sent, some ideas around, and then
Bill?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I do just want to stop you on that because so that grant covers two things. It covers the study and the implementation. And when we were talking about it at the last meeting, we were talking about like, would it be possible to do an implementation study, or sorry, not an to do a study for the town of Niskayuna? Because the CDTC study is pretty broad and it goes through Schenectady, Saratoga, Rensselaer, and Albany counties. And I think that the conclusion that we reached at the last meeting was that it would be possible to do a study for just Niskayuna, because that would give us a lot of more specifics that we could use then to leverage from other grants. The dangerous part about saying, okay, let's go right for implementation is that it's a federal grant and we need shovel-ready projects. And we do not have shovel-ready projects. We have a list of things that would be totally wonderful, but I think that without doing the study and without paying for upfront engineering, that there's no way that it's possible for the town to submit an implementation plan, regardless of the fact that the CDTC has a 4 county-wide, plan that we could potentially bounce off. Like in my conversations with them, like the minimum threshold for an implementation is $5 million. So you're almost automatically triggering something that you would need to be working with the state and the county on. Like, we are not in the position to submit a $5 million grant to the federal government for infrastructure connections that we would like to make. They aren't shovel ready.
Well,
So I don't want to go down the rabbit hole on that. Okay. I really want
I
to
would
stick
like
to
to
what we
play
can do.
devil's advocate on that for a minute, if we're still discussing it, I guess. Kind of two things. One is when you start spending money, numbers get big quick, bigger than you might think. And I do have the 4 projects there, and it seems to me that I'll have to read the grant again, but I don't read it as the implementation saying you've got to have the projects all designed to submit your grant. I mean, you have ideas about where you need to spend money and where money could be wisely spent. And I would also say that, we're focused on town roads. If we stay away from county and state roads for right now, town roads where we'd be working in the town right away, that we have 4 projects. Even if we looked at another one, maybe concrete sidewalks on Story Avenue getting up to Van Antwerp. And then another thought that Jim Levy and I kicked around a little bit was we have the school campus recommendations that we've made to the school district. The pushback that we've gotten from them is that, well, we think these are a good idea, but we don't have the money to do them. And I'm thinking as a comprehensive plan to promote bikeability and walkability to schools, we have these streets that we've proposed, some improvements in terms of side paths or sidewalks to get to the school campus. And then we have some other recommendations. I mentioned the one at Birchwood Elementary, but we also have others at the high school and the other campuses, certainly Rosendale and Iroquois, that, we would put those in our grant as well, too, so that, we would get up to the $5 million mark. And doing these would not be rocket science to do them. They're pretty basic kinds of things. We're asking for a side path on a road, an asphalt side path on a road, or a concrete sidewalk that would be maybe on Palmer or one on Rankin, an asphalt side path maybe on Cornelius, and either asphalt side path or a concrete sidewalk on Birchwood, getting folks down to Birchwood Elementary. And then on the school campuses, we're really asking for asphalt side paths to get you in. If we said River Road Park, we'd use some of the money to do the asphalt walk paths in River Road Park that would allow bicyclists to get from Hempstead Road over to Iroquois or to Rosendale. And I say this, I mean, you have the accident data and that sort of thing, that there is data in the CDTC database that I'm all for. If we've been working with the school district, we would have them as a community hook that we're trying to promote safe pedestrian access to our schools. And we have some of the streets in the town that are very weak in terms of pedestrian access to the school. And even we have limitations when you get to the school property line to actually get to the school building. And so in my view, we would easily be able to propose what I would say is $5 million in work with the comprehensive overall plan of promoting safe bike and pedestrian access to our schools. We put all this stuff in. We get a letter from the school district supporting taking these steps. They've said they like the recommendations we have on the school campuses. They just don't have the money. And so this is an answer to that. We're going to get the money. And when, if we have to add another street like Story Avenue or something to get to the $5 million mark. And I also feel like there may be some communities out there that are like us. They're not really ready to go with an implementation grant. And there's not a lot of time between now and September 15. But really, if we come up with a reasonable plan and we have some data to support it, we have our survey, we have evidence of working with the school district, someone would be able to look at maps. We'd include the maps of each school. We'd say, here are streets we're doing some improvements on. And once you get to the school line and here's improvements that would get you on the school campus. I'm all for, let's give it a shot. Let's write the grant. Let's put the stuff in, put a stamp on it, mail it. The worst that can happen is we don't get any money, but we at least have the school district focused on these improvements. We have our town board knowledgeable of things that are going on that can be done. And, if we don't get the federal money, we send it to climate smart communities for New York State, put a stamp on it and send it to them. And I understand about getting a plan for Niskuna, and I'm not saying no to that if the town board prefers to do that, or if this committee, that seems to make more sense to them. I'm just like CDTC seems to believe that their comprehensive plan would qualify. And even when we look at school districts, school campuses in our town, I'm not sure there's that much, serious accident fatality data to even dig up. Our main point is there aren't good sidewalks or side paths to these schools. Most parents are not going to let their kids go on Rosendale Road or go to Birchwood by themselves. It's not accessible. It's only accessible by buses. It's not accessible by pedestrian or bikes. And so all you got to do is look at them.
I can meet with you about it and we can look into it. I love your passion. We have 15 minutes left though, just so you know.
Can I say something on that too? I know you want to limit the conversation. My only concern about having a separate Niskayuna safety plan is that, these federal programs are data driven. So they're looking at crashes that have fatalities, looking at crashes with serious injuries. I don't know if Niskayuna on the local roads has that type of, crashes that they're looking at. So by keeping it under the umbrella of the Capital District Transportation Committee, we're still meeting the requirements, but yet we can submit this project and not have to have a separate plan. I that's my feeling on it, because I'm very concerned that whatever plan that we come up with, it's not going to have the data that meets a lot of the federal requirements.
so is your position, let's go forward using what the CDTC has? Is your
Yes,
position
definitely.
we should,
Definitely, yes, that's my position on it. Yeah.
And Bill, you confirmed CDTC said that they do believe their plan covers municipalities, right? I mean, that was the email you sent. They're
that's the
absolutely
email,
confident.
and I asked Jennifer Saponis if she'd be kind enough to check with the feds to make sure that their viewpoint is her viewpoint, that it qualifies as an overall comprehensive safety plan, and that, and Jennifer Saponis even said Sandy Misowitz and another woman that works on their staff would be willing to help us look at some data or use the data there as well as possible to put in an application. And,
Hey, Bill, this is Andrew. Can you hear me?
yes, go ahead, Andrew.
So I read the plan that you sent around, and it does include Niskayuna as part of the outreach, and references are safe route to school, initiatives and things like that. So I do think we could keep it under that umbrella. I guess logistically, if we're going to move forward with this, we as the committee, do we have the ability to write grants for the town, or how would we go about submitting the grant application? Does it have to get approved by the town board, or just logistically, how do we do it?
We have an expert on the committee by the name of Andrew Millspawn that we're going to rely on. I think we do have some expertise on the committee. I mean, I've written a lot of grants.
So
Jim
Bill,
Levy makes a living
it
doing
would,
this.
it would have to be approved by the town board. Yes.
I understand.
Yeah, Andrew.
Those-
That's the answer to Andrew's question, is it would have to get approved by the town board. So, and I'm glad that we had that discussion. I'm sorry that I sound so short about it. Like, I thought that we had kind of agreed at the last meeting, and I really want to keep us, like, I know that we all agree about complete streets, but I want to keep us on task and moving through an agenda. If you guys want to focus on implementation and set aside the safety plan stuff that we talked about at the last meeting, that's fine. The CDTC plan definitely will count. They sent us a self-certification. We've talked to the county planner. I'm just concerned that you spend a lot of time on something that isn't, truly ready. And there is a cost to that, just so you guys know. Like, you couldn't do it in a vacuum. You couldn't do it all by yourself. It's going to be staff time, or the town's going to pay a contractor to do it. So I just want to be careful that we're not, like, overreaching. I don't think that any of the work is not good to do. It definitely is. If we don't want to do the safety plan for Niskayuna, and Catherine, I appreciated your comment. It makes perfect sense to me. And we focus on implementation. I don't know if it's this round or it's a different grant, but I'm okay with that direction. I have a meeting with the police chief and the town supervisor about it in a couple days. So
I would just say that I'm willing to offer some of my time. Catherine has worked for DOT. I'm sure she would be able to offer some expertise on this. Jim Levy, does this for a living. Laura and Clark have expertise. Jennifer Saponis has said, I'm willing to look at your draft to offer some data. And I guess I'm just wondering if other communities are not shovel ready right off the rip, would we have an opportunity to actually get funding because other communities just aren't ready? If we come up with something, we have involvement with the school, we have our complete streets plan for the town, we have survey data, we'll do the best with the data that we have, and we submit. And I don't know, the worst that can happen is we get a no. Now, I understand your point, Laura, that, well, maybe it's a mistake to go to implementation, maybe round one, and the door may be more open to get a specific study for Niskayuna.
No, Bill, my point is that there's a time cost to an application that's highly competitive across the entire United States. And regardless of how much time you guys put into it, it's still going to take staff time. So if we know that it's highly competitive and we don't have a shovel-ready project and we're throwing everything into a bag and then throwing it at the federal government to see if it'll stick, the time cost to that may be that, like, I can't support you guys as well to do to do a, you know, like a demonstration project, or I've been working out in the field trying to get the Plum Street sidewalk to go in. There's a time cost to these things. That's what my concern is. I am still working on it though.
I can
Well-
attest to the Plum Street sidewalk, and I'm so excited and grateful about that, Laura. Thank you.
Yes. Well, that's why I defer to the committee. I mean, if there are people there that are willing to give it a shot, I mean, I would have to hear from Catherine, Jim Levy, Carla, Andrew. People, are they willing to invest some effort to try to do a draft of this and use the data that we have, even if Laura and Clark can only give us so much time? I mean, it would be a commitment. Or do we as a committee feel it would be too heavy of a lift? And I mean, certainly the town board would be the ones that would have to make the call on that. So I don't know if you would like me to attend the meeting with a supervisor to be an advocate for giving it a shot, or if Complete Streets agrees that we should try for an action grant, that would get presented to the supervisor, and whether she would say, no, we want to get a safety plan first and hire an engineering firm and submit in 2023 instead of 2022. I mean, it's up to the town board to make the decision. Any other thoughts from folks?
There's also a huge difference between the study funds and the minimum for the implementation, because I can't remember what the match is either. But I mean, if you're potentially talking about $1 million match from the town, that's also obviously a conversation that you have to have at the town board.
Is it a 20/80 split? You know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm trying to look at it now, but I would like to move on from this item. I got the direction from you guys that you'd rather look at an implementation plan, which is fine. It makes sense from me. We'll continue to be working on it. I really think that it's not like one of you guys, if you want to designate a point person who's like going to be really diving into this grant, that can contact me a lot and follow up on it. Like, that's fine with me. But I think that you have to have, you know, before you go and spend a lot of volunteer time on it, you got to make sure that the town board's behind it and would even be willing to fund the match on something like that as well.
Well, actually, let me do two things, Laura. One is, if you're talking to the supervisor and they really, if there is a pathway to an implementation grant, I mean, would they be willing to reach out to M&J or somebody that's, for instance, did the Glenville grant to say, we'd like to submit, here are the items that we'd like to do it. And if they've got cost estimates and they've got some expertise in filing a grant, then you get an engineering firm to do that, to work on it, not all day, every day, but to spend 2 weeks or a month or whatever it takes to get a grant together. And we need to find out the match and to let the town board know this would be the match. If we got a $5 million grant, you'd be on the hook for $1 million. And the mill could also be bonded money as well too. It doesn't necessarily mean they've got to spend the fund balance, but you could do a lot of good in the community with $5 million in federal money. Even if you got $4 million, if you got 5 and you had to do another mill yourself, I mean, that would be money that you could borrow and do $6 million worth of work. That's a lot. Okay. Still there, Laura?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Anyone else on the committee want to offer a comment on this before we move on to the next item?
Well, I think, if Laura's going to talk to the supervisor, in a couple of days, that's the first step, see where we go and what she thinks the town board may or may not be willing to do. And if we do pursue this, I'm happy to help out to the extent I can. I did just look, it does appear it's an 80-20 match, just as an FYI. So.
Okay. Well, the next item is priority spreadsheet updated with cost estimates. I mean, that may be just a follow-up from the meeting that we had with the town supervisor, that I did send a spreadsheet around with items on it. And we're going to try to get some cost estimates for some of these things that are on here. And I don't know if Clark Henry's going to work on that, or do you want to say anything on that, Laura? Or
I don't currently have Clark scheduled to work on that. I could look. I thought that was something that you were going to do. Do you need my
no, I asked if that was something Clark could do, and I was under the impression that you and Clark were going to discuss it and see if that was possible. So,
all right, I will talk to him about it.
okay. Utility quarters update. I did want to say on that the email that we got from Jennifer Saponis did have a couple of encouraging things. It's an email that I did forward to everybody on the committee in July 24. But Jennifer does point out I did ask her about trail planning, that we were thinking about, we have utility quarters in the town, and we'd like to learn about getting access to using those. I mentioned that, we may not be able to do paved trails right away, but, is it possible we could just get access to using the rough trails that are there already for recreational, or for people to walk their dogs or walk their families, or just have it as a recreational? And she referred me, she said, one, there's a Capital District Trails Plan released in 2019. Several trails identified Schenectady County. She also thought we should look at those to see if they have utility quarters identified on those. And she said that, we might be able to help you with getting utility quarters on your big map of pedestrian and bike paths in Niskuna. That we've asked Mark Storty at the county to work on that, but we haven't, gotten a lot of progress on that. But if somebody's got a map that's got those, where we would get the CAD requirements or whatever to show those trails on our map, that would be a big thing. And then she says there's a trail management best practices guide and webpage that includes examples of other trails, both locally and nationally, and what types of partnerships, agreements, or other strategies were used. So, and then she goes on to say the webpage also includes a series links to important sources, including an example trail license agreement and example trail proposals. So those would be good for our utility quarters subcommittee to take a look at, to see, are there some example leases that other towns have used that we might look at. And I think the idea is to have that conversation, or one, to look at the leases to see, well, what would the town have to do to talk to the utility people? I mean, if we said, we're willing to insure any activity if people are walking on these trails and someone got injured, that it would be covered under the town's insurance policy, just like we insure activities in our town parks or whatever. And whatever it would be, to look at what's in those, to see what other communities have done, and then obviously the next step on paving things. But I just see this as she's interested in this, and if we could get some help on what are the underlying data on utility quarters in Schenectady County, and maybe even in Niskuna, get that data moved over to our town map. They might even help us with that. And then, find out, well, just look at some of these other things on sample agreements or strategies. And it sounds like CDTC is willing to, help us with some solutions on that kind of stuff, to see how we might get some access to be able to use utility quarters. So I thought that was encouraging.
That's really good, Bill. When I spoke to Jennifer from us, Capital District. I was just asking her for her contacts at National Grid because I reached out to them twice so far and I haven't heard back from them at all, though I'm not surprised.
Yep.
So maybe it would be better if we worked through Jennifer on this, trying to get the map done, with these utility corridors. I think the other question I was going to have for you, who developed the Capital District Trails Plan? Is that CDTC?
I think it probably was.
Okay.
But, I mean, I don't know for sure, but
It was.
Okay.
so CDGC sounds like they're interested in helping us, and so we need to reach out to them and let them know what we're scratching around. We walk some trails. We'd like to really identify the utility corridors in Niskayuna, and then look at some sample agreements on what other communities have done, or just to say, as a start, we'd like to have the public be able to walk on these without National Grid or somebody saying, look, you don't have permission, or calling a town supervisor saying, gee, we see people walking and we don't want that, or we need an agreement in place, or whatever it is. And so it'd be a place for us to start. And,
Yeah, I think that's great. I think we'll start looking at, I didn't realize the CDTC had put that together, so that would be helpful.
yeah. Okay. It's 3 minutes after 4. We've covered quite a bit of ground. Also, do people, do you want to meet August 19 or September 2nd? Does anybody have any thoughts about that? Our August meeting, instead of being August 19, would be September 2nd. So
I'd prefer September 2nd myself, but
okay.
that doesn't me.
Anybody else?
When is Labor Day?
That's a good question.
September 5th.
Okay.
Yes, this
September
actually is-
2nd would be fine.
Yeah, the second would be leading right into that weekend.
Okay.
Is that okay? Well, we'll go with September 2nd then.
Sounds good.
Any other business? I know Laura has to scoot to do childcare, and so we'll wait to get some input back from the town supervisor on what we may do on SS4A. But I mean, we made good progress on Wyoming, good progress on the projects, good progress on Lexington Parkway, and we've had some good discussion on SS4A. So I think it was a very productive get together. So given that, I like to move that we adjourn our July 29 meeting, and I so move. Looking for a second. Elise Corbin, a second. All in favor of adjourning until our next meeting, which will be September 2nd. And we may be getting together sooner with the subcommittee on the demonstration project. And if we decide to give SS4A a shot, then we'll be getting together to work on that. So thank you all for coming today.
Okay, thank you.
Nice weekend. So take care. Bye-bye.